Hey everyone, Colbert here. Welcome to another Raid Shadow Legends video. Guys, in this one, I'll be going over the new fusion that has been introduced to us in the content creator chat, but also announced to everyone through the highlights post here on update 2.21 that's coming. So the new fusion is coming on this Monday. I'll go over the skills on Vergumkar. They've been released to everyone already here on the post if you want to go there instead and see it. But also, guys, I had this document linked to me with a ton of champions that are included in this list. But also, guys, this list includes some champions or maybe bosses that were not that are not coming in 2.21, so they're possibly coming in the future and maybe in the Void Tower. So this one's like maybe a boss. So let's get to it. Let's go over to the new champion's skills. He's called Vergumkar. His skill A1 attacks one enemy, 35% chance of placing a stun debuff for one turn. The chance increased by 15% for each buff on the target. This is great for PvP, great even for PvE. So the more buffs on the target, the more reliant his stun can be. Great skill on an A1. His A2 removes all provoked debuffs and one random debuff from all allies. Is great, especially in some areas of the game where provoke is certainly very hard on you. For example, the faction wars, there's some bosses that do have the ads that provoke you, and also some arena fights that you have Torment there provoking, or Molly provoking. This can be really good to remove the provoke debuff if it's a longer duration, like a 2-turn provoke. Definitely sucks. Places a 60% increased defense buff for 2 turns on allies who have debuffs removed. Also places a shield buff on all allies equal to 20% of this champion's max HP. This can be good for clan boss as well, because if you remove some debuffs, especially after the AoE number 2, then you'll be able to also have an increased defense buff for 2 turns. This is good, although you usually need to have the increased defense buff before you get the AoEs. So I don't know about clan boss and how good he can be, especially if this is a 4 turns cooldown. He'll have to be at the 4-3 speed. Then we go over to his A3, attacks all enemies, removes one random buff from each enemy, has a 75% chance of removing 2 random buffs from each enemy. This is great. I think this is going to go to 100% with some books. Plays a 100% block heal debuff for 3 turns on enemies who have 1 or more buffs removed. Also plays a 60% decreased defense debuff for 2 turns on enemies who have 2 buffs removed. Okay, so he's basically going to be like a legendary version of Madame Series with this, except for the decreased attack. There won't be a decreased attack, so still Madame Series will be an even better champion than this one. And finally, his A4, basically his passive, immune to provoke debuff. This is so cool because he can then remove the provoke debuffs with his A2. Fills this champion's turn by 20% each time an enemy attempts to place a provoke debuff on this champion. Well, I don't know about this one because the attempts will be just 1. So they're going to try to provoke this lizard. Is going to be a lizard man, by the way. This lizard by 1 time, and then just a 20% increase in turn meter. I guess this is okay. It's 4 turns cooldown. Not that exciting of a passive. And then also an aura, increase all ally resist in all battles by 55. But this is cool. Anytime you get an increase in all ally resist, you can possibly use it in certain situations. But most importantly, use, I think, in arena. This champion overall seems okay. Not too crazy about it, but of course, we'll see how the overall community thinks about this champion as a fusion, and of course, how hard this champion is going to be in terms of fusing him, which champions are going to be required, if new champions are going to be added to the game with this champion for the fusion. We'll see. We'll see on Monday, so I'll wait for that. So guys, I was going to go through this document right now and explain to you all of their skills and the champions, but apparently Blarium has beat me to it. So this is the recent community post. So every Friday, every second Friday, I think they post this kind of update, which is great. And here are the champions with their pictures, their skills, and everything. It's very easy for you guys to go over through it. I'll go over through this post instead of the leaked post. So 22 new champions will be available in patch 2.21. But before we get to that, guys, since this has been announced already, I'm going to go over something that was in this one that is not posted by Plarium. So the very first 2, I think, champions I'll go over. And the remaining of the list, I'm just gonna let you guys read it. So look at this, guys. Agreth. So this one is not a champion. It's not anywhere in this list. So it's definitely a boss. So this is what I'm thinking. This is like a boss. So Venomous Web attacks all enemies, places a 5% poison debuff on all enemies for 4 turns, grants an extra turn for each ally without buffs. This does not look like a champion. This looks like a boss. If the enemy, so us, has buffs, then she'll be going crazy and getting extra turns. So Spiraling Fist, the A2 spawns 4 Spiralings. Reminds you of anyone? Like the spider boss that we already have. Agrith can have a maximum of 4 Spiralings in battle at any time. Attacks all enemies with the Spiralings if at least one Spiraling was spawned. Plays a counterattack buff on all Spiralings for 3 turns. Wow, just amazing. Just spawns the Spiderlings very similar to the Spider Boss, but also applies the counterattack buff. So it's very, very crazy when she has this. So grants an extra turn for each ally without buff. So if you try to remove the counterattack buff from the Spiderlings, she'll be gaining way more extra turns. So you should let the counterattack buff on the Spiderlings. Then let's look at her A3, the passive. Every time an enemy decreases Agrith turn meter, deals damage equal to the amount of turn meter decreased on the attacker. So yeah, you won't be able to be decreasing the turn meter if you also want to stay alive, because she's got a passive that will punish you if you try to do the turn meter cheese that we usually do on the spider. At the start of each turn, activates all poison debuffs on all enemies. When attacked by an enemy under a poison debuff, places a 25% poison sensitivity and increases the duration of all debuffs by 1 turn. When attacked by an enemy without a poison debuff, places a poison debuff on them for 4 turns. So again, this one looks a really cool way to actually beat you down with poisons. Then we also have the Spiderlings and their kit. So Poisonous Sting attacks all enemies, places a 5% poison debuff on all enemies for 2 turns. Entwinement heals Agrith by 10% whenever the Spiderling counterattacks. When counterattack buff is removed or expires, places protected sheer damage on Agrith. So ally protection. Agrith already has sheer damage, increases its lifetime for 1 turn. So you'll be having to decide whether to remove the buffs on the boss or just go the turn meter route on her directly and not try to attack the Spiralings or beat down the Spiralings, because she will be like gaining extra turns like crazy if you remove the buffs. So this one is probably going to be like a boss. Then we also have Cooldath. So Cooldath, I don't think he's in this list. I didn't go through the whole list just to read the names through. I don't see anyone called Cooldath. There's a ton of champions here, guys. I will be probably going over the epics only and the legendaries because these are the ones that are focused by, I think, by the most. They don't really care about the rares. So Cooldath, Scorching Seal attacks one enemy, place a mark for 4 turns. Then the A2, I don't know what the mark does. The A2, Blaze Away, attacks all enemies, instantly activates all HP burn debuffs placed on enemies. So this looks really cool if this one's a champion or a boss. Not sure yet. Kindle attacks all enemies, plays an HP burn debuff on all enemies for 3 turns, steals 10% of the enemy's turn meters for each enemy under the HP burn debuff. So a great way to apply the HP burn and then also to steal the turn meter, but also to activate all the HP burn. So it will be like an HP burn explosion skill, but also a removal of turn meter based on HP burn debuffs. So a really cool skill, that A2 and that A3. Really cool skill combo. I do like this one, but I do think that this one will be a boss instead because of the passives here. So A4 and A5, the passives. Deadly Lava, whenever an enemy removes a mark from themselves, place a mark on that enemy. So you won't be able to be removing that mark. We don't know exactly what the mark does. If the target is under a mark, ignores 100% of the defense. Oh, there it is. As well as block damage, shield, and unkillable buffs. So, wow, you'll need to go there with huge amounts of HP. Whenever an enemy places an HP burn on Cooldath, removes it and places a 15% continuous shield buff on self for 2 turns. So, yeah, you won't be able to apply the HP burn on Cooldath, and he will be removing it and also placing the heal on himself. And then there's the Molten Dragon immunity. I don't know what the Molten Dragon means, but excluded provoke. I'm not sure what that means. So this is like a work in progress. But still, these two definitely, guys, look like bosses that we're going to have in the Void Tower. They don't look like champions, especially the spider one. Cool Death, maybe it looks like a champion, but yeah. The remaining ones, guys, here in the list, as I said before, looks like rares, champions, rare epics, and legendaries that we're gonna have. So we're gonna go over to the highlights here that was posted by Valkyrie like a few minutes ago. I was originally going to post a video about this list, but instead I'm going to go over this one. So I'm going to go over the legendaries and epics. You can look at the rares on your own page. I saw them already. I don't think any one of them really stands out. So Ursuga, Legendary Void, HP Barbarian Champion. She really looks like War Mother here. War Mother's mother. So Gigantic Cudgel, attacks one enemy, 45% chance of placing a block cooldown skills. Always a cool way to block somebody with this one. A2 attacks all enemies, 30% decrease critical damage debuff and a 50% decrease attack debuff for 2 turns on targets whose attack is higher than their defense. And then the opposite for defensive champions. So places a decreased speed debuff and a 60% decreased defense debuff on targets whose attack is equal to or lower than their defense. So the defense is much higher, so maybe 4,000 defense. On Razdan, he of course will have decreased defense on him instead, and a decreased speed debuff on him instead. So the A3 plays a 50% ally protection buff on all allies except this champion for 2 turns, and a strengthened buff. So good to have ally protection, but it's 2 turns, 4 turns cooldown. This might be reduced to 3. And then the passive decreases damage on all allies received by critical hits by 30%. This champion will receive that damage instead. Increase ally HP in all battles by 33%. Overall, this champion looks great, especially in defensive setups. You want to be protecting your team. Decrease attack, decrease critical damage, decrease speed, decrease defense. A ton of debuffs applied by this champion. A ton of protection on your team. She's HP. I hope her damage is also based on HP. So I think this one's a cool little legendary to actually go for. And then we've got Vergumkar. Here he is. Here's his image. He looks like a dinosaur. So cool. Lizardman support champion. There he is. And the skills, we already mentioned them before. And then we've got some of the epics. I'm going to go through the epics and then stop on the rares because the rares don't really look all that great. I think only Draken is. And I think there was one more that actually looked really cool, but I'm just going to go through the epics really quickly. So Bareth the Blood-Soaked attacks one enemy 2 times. Each hit has a 20% chance of filling Thermometer. The second hit has a 20% chance of decreasing the target's Thermometer. That's a low chance, 1 in 5, even on a 2-hit A1. Then the A2 Splattering Hacks attacks one enemy 2 times. The first hit places a shield equal to 25% of the damage inflicted on all allies for 2 turns. The second hit heals all allies by 10% of the damage inflicted. I do like this. Because it's a shield based on damage inflicted, but it's on a single target, so it depends how high this multiplier can be. And then we've got the A3, A2 or A3? A3, yeah. Basic, I don't know what basic means. Oh yeah, Ascended is the improved version. So this one attacks one enemy 2 times. The first hit has a 75% chance of placing a 50% decreased attack debuff for 2 turns, and a 75% chance of removing any increased attack debuff, attack buffs from the target. So basically weakens the champion, removes the increased attack, applies a decreased attack. And the second one removes the increased defense, applies a decreased defense. Yeah, that's so good. Basically just destroys a target enemy, depending on if he's a defensive champion with an increased defense or an attack champion with an increased attack. They would benefit the most out of that. She will be removing it, he will be removing them, and then he'll be also applying the decreased version of the debuffs. So a great A3 on an epic. And then we got Fane. Fane is so good. I saw her before on the leaked document. So Fane, epic spirit, skinwalker champion. She's an epic, but look at the skills, guys, on this champion. Attacks one enemy 2 times. Each hit has a 35% chance of stealing 5% of the target's current Thermometer. I know that's low. Wait for it, guys, for A2 and A3. So the Ascended A2 attacks one enemy, 75% chance of placing 5% poison debuffs and a 50% decreased attack debuff for 2 turns. 4-turn cooldown. If you can get this to 3 turns cooldown, this will be a great way to apply some poisons through that A2, and also a decreased attack debuff. Fantastic way to help you in the clan boss or any boss situation. And then look at this A3, guys. Attacks one enemy 3 times. The first hit has a 75% chance of placing a decreased defense debuff for 3 turns. 5 turns cooldown. So the second hit applies a weaken, a strong version of a weaken, same chance. The third hit heals its champion by 4% of their max HP for every debuff on the target. So possibly 10 debuffs on the target, 4% heal, 40% healing on a 5-turn cooldown. Hopefully this can be like a 4-turn cooldown, a 3-turn duration. This looks like a great skill and a great champion to have to accompany you in the clan boss. If you don't have something like a Razin just yet, I do think she looks great. This was leaked in the video recently, the new champion that's coming to the game. Next up, it's Kaden, a magic defense Dark Elves champion, epic again. Attacks one enemy, 15% chance of placing a provoke. That's okay. The A2 is an AoE, 75% chance of placing a 50% decreased attack debuff for 2 turns, 4 turns cooldown. I like this, but I don't like the cooldown. And then Favor of the Chamber revives 2 random allies with 50% HP. Ascended, and places a 60% increased defense buff on them. Okay, this one's great, but look at that cooldown, 6 turns. Looks to be way long for a 6-turn cooldown. Next up, guys, we've got Tuhak the Wanderer, Void Epic. So he's definitely going to be good. Attacks one enemy 2 times, 30% chance of increasing the cooldown of one of the target skills by 1 turn at random. Increases the cooldowns of all target skills by 1 turn instead if this champion has less than 50% HP when attacking on each hit. Yeah, this is good, but I think he's all of his kit depends on him being below 50 or 60% HP. His A2 decreased speed debuff, and also an increased speed buff on this champion, increased speed debuff on all enemies, and then increased speed buff on this champion for 2 turns. Heal this champion by 15% of the damage inflicted if they have less than 50% HP. And then that A3 attacks one enemy, steals 50% of the target's current turn meter. But if he's much lower on HP, he will steal 100% of the target's current turn meter. Very cool skill. Decrease the damage taken by this champion by 20% when their HP drops below 60%. I do think this champion is going to be great in that spider that we leaked a bit before, because he'll be stealing the turn meter. He'll go low, but his other skills will help him basically survive, because his passive, look at this, decreased damage taken by 20% when their HP drops below 60%. So this will help him survive a bit more. Increases ally attack in all battles by 22%. So that's okay. I mean, that aura looked very okay. So I'm only gonna go through this this one rare here, Draconis. He's a Void HP Sacred Order rare, and he's got a healing on his A1 based on damage inflicted. And then his A2 applies a shield buff on all allies equal to 15% of this champion's max HP. 4 turns cooldown. And the A3 attacks one enemy, removes all debuffs from the ally with the lowest HP, then heals them by 25% of the damage inflicted. So yeah, definitely a cool little skill right here. I do think he's the best one of the rares here in the list. You should guys go over the list and tell me if any one of these is definitely worth it. I did go over them, but did not really get into their skills and what they can do. But definitely a ton of new champions added to the game. Some are dwarves, some are barbarians. There's no new factions coming, it seems. So definitely addition to the ones that we have, and they're going to be helpful for the content that we have right now in the game, especially beating that faction wars, getting all those 819 stars. So guys, thanks a lot for watching this video. Subscribe if you haven't already, and of course I'll see you guys in the next one. See ya.